Hi everybody, this is Angel Arts, and this is vlog number 3 for the Sinlyn trial. So as usual, if you haven't seen the up through the third session yet, you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend taking a look at that on the playlist before looking at this video, since I will be discussing it. So this episode, as Dylan said near the end, was a bit of a transitionary episode. It wasn't as action-packed as the first two were. The last one, of course, had a lot of intensity to it. This was sort of a way for the characters to have some downtime, kind of collect themselves, and figure out what are we going to do next, what is our plan of attack. And so even though that this session moved a little bit slower, it was important because it allowed for us to roleplay more about each other, establish more of our characters, and their relationships with each other. I definitely was very pleased with, again, more Sarun and Quinn interactions. I think that they're really starting to bond a little bit. I guess Quinn's starting to see Sarun as kind of like an older brother, maybe. I wouldn't necessarily consider it's weird. It's weird because Sarun, I think, is a little too young to really be a father figure for Quinn, but at the same time, he is older in terms that he's not really quite. I mean, it's possible that they're the proper age of brother and sister. It's possible, but it's unlikely. So he's Sarun's sort of in between that father figure, older brother. He's caught in that limbo in the center. So I'm not really sure how to best describe it, but I think that Quinn sees him more of a brother than a father, at least older, wiser brother. It's really interesting to see, I guess, Quinn's views on religion and on faith, because going in, I didn't really necessarily see her as being particularly religious, but based on some of the really recent events, and I don't think that I think she always respected people of the clergy. She respected religion, even though she wasn't necessarily practicing. She believes in the gods and all that good stuff, but she's not necessarily, doesn't really actively go to church. And so I think that with her bonding more with Sarun, she's starting to feel like a little bit of that what I refer to as the Karis guilt, to try to pay a little bit more attention to the gods, maybe pay a little bit more respects to them, especially not only because of Karis supposedly helping them with combat in the last session, but also with everything that was going on with Blaze's father. Again, definitely a lot of feels all around. It was good to see, not only for us as players, but also as characters. It was good for Quinn to see that other side of Blaze that I guess isn't very apparent when you first meet the guy, when you see him in that vulnerable state, and watching him react sometimes in ways that are a bit more of a darker path than others. It's really interesting just to see there's all these options, all these directions that Blaze is being tugged into, and it's just a matter of which path is he ultimately going to, what line is he ultimately going to walk. And so him making the conscious effort to, for example, not use the cloak for a while, I think does show a bit of growth, does show a bit of maturity. And I think Quinn started piping up a little bit more about her feelings on Blaze's decisions and reactions to the things that are going on with the events of his life. And I actually was a little surprised by how receptive Blaze was being to some of the things that was being said to him, not only from myself and from Sarun, but also Bartimaeus as well. And of course, we started exploring some of the concerns that Quinn has. A side of Quinn where she's not as confident, and she is a little bit more vulnerable than she would like to outwardly express, especially to people who aren't particularly close to her. She's confiding a bit with Nana and talking to her about how, yeah, her job over at the Swordfish Trombone, which she didn't pick the name for, um, is all great and dandy, but then, this job that she's getting on the side where she's putting herself in danger, and, you know, she keeps going because she's trying to provide for her family, but at the same time, at what cost? Like, yes, she can try to earn this much money so that she can, provide not only the necessities for her family, but also to hopefully put Gabriel to a proper magic school if he actually does seem to possess, you know, that magical ability, which is, we're starting to see that manifest a little bit in him. And, this is something that she's starting to gauge herself and is a little concerned about. So there's a lot on her mind. And as a player, of course, I don't want Quinn to leave the party. Obviously, I don't want her to quit this campaign, because obviously I still want to play it, and not only it, but play as her. But I think, from a in-character role-playing point of view, I have to be, very realistic about things, and she will have concerns, because, when you're a mom, you kind of have to worry about what's best for your kids. And, she's starting to second guess, is this really what's best for Gabriel in the long run? Maybe there's another way I can make some extra cash that might not be as much, but at least it'll be enough to survive. Um, but I mean, going into this campaign, I knew that was going to be a challenge, and I specifically gave her that aspect of her background because it's an aspect that I think most players tend to shy away from. Quite often when I GM a campaign and players make characters, very, very few of them, have families, like an actual family that they're raising, kids, for example, and very, very few of them even have like husbands or wives, spouses, and that's understandable, because when you are creating a character who's supposed to be an adventurer, who's supposed to be, um, you know, a hero, they are going to they have to put themselves in danger all the time, and it's so much easier for them to do that when they don't have these ties, especially when children are involved. So I understand why, that's not a normal thing for people when they admit adventures, but it's something that I really wanted for my character, and I felt that it worked well enough with this campaign, since Devin said that for the most part we were going to remain either at the city or in the vicinity of the city, and go off every once in a while. And it seems like we're starting to move towards a more epic quest where we're actually, you know, leaving the city much more often than maybe Devin anticipated, which is fine, because I think that it's just the knowledge that you have people that you want to come home to, I think, is not a bad thing. And it just probably will make Quinn fight even harder. And I think I, as the player, have to rely on Sarun and Blaze to sort of keep her involved in the adventure in a way that and have Quinn, I guess, agree to stay on the adventure in a way that it makes sense. And I'm pretty sure that between the four of us, including Devin, will be able to do that. This actually reminds me of one of the characters that I had on the very first major story-based campaign that I played in D&D, where my character was female and she actually ended up falling in love. We didn't plan this, it just kind of happened, but she ended up falling in love with one of the PCs and ended up pregnant. And so, again, it is an adventure, you want to protect yourself not only for yourself, but now you have your own child. And that was a bit of a challenge, having her agree to continue on with the adventure while she was pregnant with the other PC's kid. And I guess, it was a different challenge altogether, because at least, Gabriel's safe at home, as far as Quinn is aware of. But it was just a different situation, since the PC was there and he wanted to protect her and see through this adventure because they didn't really have much of a choice. They had to continue, and it's that kind of situation that I think are very fascinating and interesting, and things that you may not necessarily see in a typical campaign. So the, I guess, demon merchant, the soul drinking merchant that Blaze was interacting with was so well done. Such a great character. People seem to react very well in the audience with Devin's character. He was just the humor behind him was just totally amusing, entertaining, and it was just really awesome to not only see Blaze, interact with him, but actually act fairly maturely near the end and actually consider that there might be more important things in this world than finding and acquiring, the most amazing catch that he ever laid his mouth upon back in session one. As Quinn was saying, she's noticing that Blaze is growing up a little bit. He still has a ways to go, but after the third session, it's interesting to see that progression. I really liked the thought that Quinn spending time spending time praying at the Temple of Karis with Sarun, that sort of gave her the I guess spiritual awakening, I guess, that allowed her to develop her new spell, her new healing word spell, because when I was designing Quinn, I didn't initially intend for her to have healing spells because it just didn't fit her theme. It didn't really fit her character. I know that obviously, from a mechanical sense, um, having two spellcasters, one primary and one secondary, is definitely a good idea, especially when there's only three of us and we're constantly fighting creatures, And yeah, but at the same time, I also wanted to, as much as possible, um, pick pick things for Quinn, not just because they were mechanically optimal, but because it made sense. It made sense with her theme. But I think that again, because of the events that had happened in the last session, she's starting to, walk towards the light a little bit more. And so I think that was a very good, in-story explanation as to why she's suddenly picking up this ability to at least become a secondary healer, because I think they're going to need it, to be quite honest. They're going to need it. Yeah, I love when there are story reasons that explain your progression, your leveling up, either learning new abilities or learning new spells. I think it adds a lot to the story and the flavor and makes it a lot more organic. Anyway, that's all I've got today for you guys. So I hope you guys are enjoying the campaign. I definitely have enjoyed thoroughly playing it, and can't wait for the next session next Monday. So hopefully I'll see you guys then. Until then, love yourselves, love each other.